Welcome back, everyone. You're here with myself, Joseph Devlin.
And Lisa Hughes.
And you are listening to the third episode of Series 2. And we are...
It's actually the fourth episode, Joseph, but don't let me interfere.
Sorry, this is the fourth episode. This is the fourth episode of Series 10.
It does feel a bit like...
If my maths is correct.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like Blur's Day in July, so we'll let you away with not knowing what episode number it is.
Thank you for letting me off the hook.
We're really excited.
Very, very excited today to be welcoming a good friend of mine, Alex Rey, who I know from the Body and Soul Festival. We've presented together and we've chatted together beside fires, and we have drunk many glasses of wine together and talked at length about spirituality and about how this can work in the modern day. And we're very, very, very grateful to have Alex here today to share our wisdom. Alex, it is great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Lisa. My good friend that I haven't seen you physically in a long time. Nice to be here with you.
Time. Great to be here with you. Alex, sorry.
So, Alex, we have this kind of series going at the moment where we are in lockdown number 246 according to Joseph's maths. And we've really been trying to help our listeners to kind of find tools and things that they can use to help to sustain and nourish them throughout this time and really kind of keep us all a bit sane, I suppose. And Joseph tells me amazing stories of all of the ancient wisdom that you are trained in and have accessed in. And I can only imagine the length of those conversations, particularly with Devlin with the wine, a glass of wine in his hand beside a fire. And so I'm fascinated because I know very little about shamanism. And I suppose if I'm really honest, if I think about it, I kind of think about kind of voodoo and magic and stuff because I have no idea. But I'm reliably informed by Mr. Devlin that it is hugely useful and practical and helpful in our modern day times. And God knows we need that more than anything. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about it.
For sure. Thank you so much, Lisa. Through my experience, not all the time had been interested in shamanism, to be honest. Even though I was born in Colombia and I tried plant medicines when I was a teenager. And my father, he was a medicine person, what is considered in the Western world a shaman. For us, it's called a medicine person, medicine man, medicine woman. Because shaman is a word that originates in the Tungus tribe in Siberia. Throughout the time and the development of shamanism, people took that word shaman for many, that qualify many other things. But shamanism is a very long, in another way for me to explain, is an ancient healing tradition that exists in many Aboriginal cultures, indigenous communities that have been through the history facing many issues with the development of this society. In other words, it's a way for us to be connected with us, within us, and the nature of the things around us. So instead of us putting our beliefs in altars and statues, we start to believe in ourselves, in our potential, in our power. So it's all about to create empowerment individuals connected with the environment. So that's in other words what the shamanism is. So it's not a religion thing, it's just a way of thinking. And along my experiences, because I feel grateful for the experiences that I have, I've been sharing with many indigenous communities in the Amazon rainforest, and also with the native Canadians in America, Canada, and I spent quite a good time near Toronto with them. And 2 years ago, I spent a few months with the indigenous communities in Siberia and Russia. And also, in the way back from Russia, I spent some time with the Samis in the north of Sweden. So there is another indigenous community, very powerful. So that's, to answer in a very few words, that's shamanism.
That's fascinating. That very, I mean, I didn't think about shamanism in Sweden and in Russia at all, those indigenous kind of tribes.
Yes.
Did you know this, Joseph?
I had a bit of an awareness around this, and I think it's interesting because in my head, shamanism, sometimes I think of things that happen in a jungle and things that happen in a tropical environment, if you like. And this is great for me to hear Alex talking about the commonality of this medicine man and woman and people being part of all indigenous tribes and going back throughout history. And of course, Ireland has this tradition. Ireland had druids and druidesses, and this is very, very much here. And I'm interested in your experience because you've lived in Ireland for quite a while, kind of, or been based at various times here in Ireland.
Yes, I've been there now for more than 12 years.
Yeah. I'm interested in this kind of theme of what might be common throughout these threads and common to the Irish tradition, because you know something about that as well, don't you?
Yes, for sure. I feel also fortunate that I have met in these experiences in Ireland with the people who have been working to wake this Celtic shamanism. It's so rich. And one of my favorite authors, and that I often, it's like the book that I always have by my hand, is John O'Donoghue and Anankara. And for me, I found lots of similarity between that wisdom, the Celtic wisdom, especially with the Anankara, and many other indigenous communities and cosmovision, because it's another term, cosmovision or world vision. And as how different cultures, moreover in this case, communities, indigenous communities, see the world and the creation of the world. Things can change as a language, dialects, words, but the idea is the same. So that's what it has been amazing for me in this journey that I have been, I think, for 15 years now, to find all those similarities. Because the idea from Tibet to Russia, the rainforest indigenous communities is the same. It's the connection, is the empowerment. And this is precisely the issues of the modern age we are suffering the disconnection. We are, we are well connected to devices that allow us to be connected in between brackets with the world, but disconnect from us, So we are living this age that I consider the age of the glass. Everything is through a glass, mobile phones, computers. And we are facing the disconnection of thoughts and emotions and feelings because it's not common for us to go to the garden, and I'm sure many people do, but to go and have a walk barefoot in the garden and on the beach, and to feel this connection with the earth. And that's when one of the principal ideas of embodiment, because I am a dance teacher and I've been also using dance movement as a aid to help people to understand their emotions. So using or creating those practices, it does inspire new connections in the brain and us and how we perceive the world.
So it sounds like it's a real embodiment type of practice.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
In the society that we are living, And by cultural different upbringings, the society and religions told people to hide, not to say anything, just to go on. But that's when precisely the traumas are created, because the voices are not here and the feelings and emotions are stuck in the body.
Yeah, I was fascinated when you were talking about this. We were just having a little bit of a chat before we came on, and Alex was talking about this, how, singing opens your throat chakra, and the drumming, and the use of the body to get ourselves, like as you said, back and connected to ourselves, out of our heads, and into this kind of whole system that we have. You should tell us a little bit more about that. Don't ask me to sing, because that will not go well. But give us the general kind of gist of that all. That's so interesting.
It believes, and it has been demonstrated, that all of us, we can sing, and all of us, we have our voice, our power. But we have in our heads the judgments given by experiences and given by cultural differences. But purely us, as we are light, there is no judgment. All of us, we can shine bright to others. So throughout the empowerment, working with the voice and with the movement, we create more awareness in our outer energy and auric fields. And this is precisely how the interconnection comes along.
Mm. So tell us about the drumming workshops that because you were saying that you have lots of people that you taught to make drums in Ireland.
Thank you. So the idea of the drum workshop making, it came because one of my experiences that I had in the jungle years ago, was maybe 8 years ago. I was in a sharing with a community, and they were just, some people were making a drum from a dry height skin that was just underground in the forest. They didn't kill for that purpose. And then it was so simple to see them taking a frame. In this case, they took a trunk, a tree that it was dry, and they carved perfectly the trunk and they create the frame. And they do some process with the skin, and they put it on, and they start beating the structure, and then they start singing and dancing. And that simplicity, it just touched me from that moment, because in my anthropological research and all those indigenous communities that I have been living with, and all of them share the same principle. They don't speak maybe the same language, the same dialect, but music and sound is international.
Yeah.
So no matter how you were, where you came from, you can understand, you can express through music and through rhythm, through those basic rhythms, how you feel. And also, it has been a tool to pass on through generations knowledge and songs they were created like a healing song for children, for comforting, for celebrations, for funerals. So it's very vast to that knowledge that is created from a drum. So I took ownership of this creation of this drum since then. And I've been developing and I've been sharing with other indigenous communities the way that they make the drum, until I found a very good people who I get the skins from. And there's an organic farm where I get the skins from. And I also improved myself along the way, how to create the frames. It has been a learning process. So about five years ago, I started in Ireland, my first drum workshop. It was in Cork. And since then, I've been offering these sacred spaces and nationwide in Ireland. And I've been twice abroad. And now that I am in between Tenerife and Ireland, I will be doing this drum workshop here in Tenerife. it's a daytime workshop. It's an experience and how people got, as I explained before, how people get in touch with the structure, with the fabrics, with the cord, because not so many people nowadays, have the chance to work with the hands, with the fingertips. As much as before, our ancestors being more in thought to function with the whole body all the time, even to use your toes for many things, but we don't. So once we fire these neural connections using the fingertips, it creates awareness, as I say, in the body. And throughout this waving process, when I work with goats and cows and skins and buffaloes, and all of them, they have different structures and different feelings. But mainly, it's a laborious task, to pull the string all the way. And sometimes you get blisters. That's normal, but not so many people are, get used to this. And that's the challenge, But once you've heard, in my word, you've heard your own shamanic drum, it's a spiritual tool that you can use for your own purpose, for your meditations, for healing others. Even so many people that have been coming to my workshops, they have children with disabilities, and they found through this basic instrument how to communicate with their children, because the children maybe will not have the same capabilities of expression that we have, but they have others. So through the drum, they found a way. So it's very magic to experience and to have one, And just finally, this topic is well related to Ireland, because in Ireland you have one of the main instruments in your culture that it's part of the heritage. And it's the same principle as
And just for the listeners at home who maybe can't see what Alex is holding, he's holding something which is very similar to a bowron. And maybe I'm pronouncing that correctly, Lisa. I think a bowron drum. So one that's traditionally kind of played by your traditional music kind of performers here in Ireland. The guys from like Christy Moore, I think, plays a bowron. This kind of round.
You were doing so well until you tried to go into Christy Moore.
Is it Christy Moore? Am I thinking of?
They'll know what a baron is.
Okay, they know what a baron is.
It's in your blood. I'm just really fascinated by this piece of I grew up with the baron, and knowing what a baron was, so that's why I can recognize the thing that Alex has in his hand. But what's fascinating me is so you have these drum making workshops, and that it's almost like occupational therapy of making the drum, and that you're saying that creates kind of connection to ourselves and opens up new neural pathways in the brain. Then when we have it's this healing instrument that we can use to communicate with others, and that it also facilitates this kind of singing and dancing that helps us to get reconnected with ourselves. And that all sounds amazing, except for the fact that Catholic oppression and repression and guilt has made me go, ooh, to all of those things.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that we like you say, it's not just glass and screens and all of those things that disconnect us from these things.
Yeah.
It's also our own Western judgment of kind of what's cool and what's not, that keep us away from these tools that can actually heal us and reconnect us and sustain us through these times.
And they are so simple. The simplicity is the key.
Yeah.
And in these drum workshops, people, as I say, go through different phases. So sometimes it awake different traumas, and sometimes people are not aware of it, and sometimes people starting to get emotional. Some people, and that's why it's important, and it's a high responsibility for me when I hold these workshops, because I don't take lightly all the awareness of the emotions that the people are going through.
Because it sounds like a bit of a journey. Sounds like some stuff can come up for people when they're working with their fingers, working with the wood and with the skin. Like,
Yes.
sorry, the skin of their own skin and the skin of the drum. Yeah.
Very, very well said. Yeah, exactly. And also, and every workshop or ceremony that I do, I order also, I say, I ask permission to the spirits of the faith. I ask permission to the spirit guides of everyone who is attending the workshop. Because that's something that we forget in this modern world, and we take everything as a granted. And we don't acknowledge and respect the spaces that we are and whatever happened there in the past, and also to bring the power of our ancestors into whatever we do nowadays.
I'm fascinated by this, Alex, and I'm fascinated by the modern day people. We live in a concrete jungle, and I'm fascinated by how this can these ancient practices, how this can be applied in our modern day times. I think this is really, really relevant. Do you have any nuggets of wisdom for us and our listeners?
I think seeing people coming into those workshops and seeing them how they transform the communication within and communication with others is the best that I've been seeing coming out of this type of activity that I've been developing along the way myself. And it's something very important to say to everyone that you don't have to be a musician. You don't have to be a singer. You don't have to be the best craftsperson. Everybody can do it. And I had in my workshops, and I just remember the memory came to me, mothers with the children. And last time a couple came over, I think we're in the early 70s, and they came. And so it's applied to everyone. And I had people from, maybe 15 until, as I say, maybe 70. So it's applied to everyone, and everyone has their own space and their own time to do it. But once they found it, they realized it was always there, in this case in Ireland with your instrument, fire on. But it's very similar instrument, it's very similar approach. However, this is even better because you get to make your own one. So all this process and memories that you have, you create along the workshop, stay with you. All these blisters that you might have in your hands, you will remember. Why? You will remember because it's also mindfulness. It's all the mindfulness that people are telling nowadays. But this is just simply of that, because your mind is focused on one thing. Finally, because it's not that easy for many people nowadays to be to have one thought at a time.
So, Alex, the drum making workshop sounds amazing. If I'm someone who right now is in the middle of lockdown and every day feels like Groundhog Day and it's the same thing over and over again, and I'm stuck on Zoom for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and I want to reconnect with my body and plug into this kind of ancient wisdom and this, our ancestors, the wisdom of our ancestors, and really become embodied as a way to support myself through this time. What are the kinds of things that you could suggest that people could do in their own homes, in the moment when they're feeling like, I would really love to access some of that?
Yeah. So I have to say, I am developing an online course of this filmmaking. Obviously, it will not be exactly the same, but I am developing a guide with videos and explanations, anthropologic view of this drumming, and it will be accessible for everyone. And just what I will do is to send the materials to people, and people will make the drum in their own homes. That's just one idea. In regards to your question, many of us faced with many energies around us, and we are these magnet So we have to, sometimes it's okay that sometimes we don't feel as 100% vitality every day. So one of my best practices that I do when I feel in that way is to take my shoes off. First of all, I often barefoot at my home, to be honest. I left the shoes. This is kind of not the tradition, but I always leave the shoes in the entrance, and I always have walked barefoot. First thing is just to take your shoes off, get a touch with the ground, with the carpet, whatever touch, surface that you have. If you have a garden, even better. But we don't have, not everyone has a garden. So another thing is for many people, as we hear constantly nowadays, the meditation and those practices, it's very hard to understand what it's about. So my advice, barefoot and play a music that reminds you your childhood, a song that is connected to a memory that you've been having fun and you're 10 years old, playing with your mates, something like that. And for me, and I have to say, one of the songs that it just brought me back to my childhood it was a TV show, comics. It was Thundercat. It's simple as that. And I when I listen to Thundercats, I just feel 10 years old back again.
I swear to God, if you could see Alex's face, it's hilarious. He looks about 10 years old. He's like, oh my God, I totally get that. Brilliant.
So all of us, we have a connection. We have a memory. We have a song. My sister, I remember she used to get crazy when she listened Wonder Woman intro, from the original series,
Yeah, Linda Carter. Yeah.
Linda Carter, yes.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, and that connection, that neuropathy that is created in our brain, it has the capability to just completely take ourselves to whatever situation we are having in the present and connect. And it's something very important to say, with our inner child. And this is another long topic, because I do have another workshop, is awakening the inner child. And this is all more practices that I recommended people. And this is another workshop that is the whole day. Sometimes I do a whole weekend, awakening your inner child. And yes, that's the answer.
So I'm taking my shoes off. I'm preparing food. I'm dancing around to Wonder Woman in the kitchen.
Yes.
Should I be singing along with it as well, Alex? With that?
Yes.
Like clearing my throat chakra.
Of course.
Anyone who 10 hours goes, it may all go horribly wrong with the neighbours. And me, like I said, me singing now, that's an interesting prospect. But it's I can see now, because Joseph is one of I would often, like, I remember meeting you for a walk up in Rathfarnham, Joseph, and I came across you. You're sitting underneath the tree with your shoes off, and I was like, he's such a weirdo. So clearly you have picked up some of Alex's tips along the way.
If you are more brave, you can just start, put some drumming bass music and just start bouncing your body and shake it off. And that would be the best.
I could do that. I could do like a Taylor Swift, just shake it off. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. My kids are always giving out to me about playing Taylor Swift. So that I could just tell them that actually it's a shamanic practice. That would really freak them out. Yeah, dear.
I love this idea that we are able to connect through music to the past. Like, this is something to me there when you told your story about the Thundercats and your sister having Wonder Woman. Like, this, I think, is a really, like, this is a little bit of the magic which through modern day, like, I don't know, you guys have probably heard of Spotify, right? You guys use Spotify. So I use Spotify. So any track, as long as Spotify has the rights to it, that we can dream of, we can go to that and we can put that on, and that can bring us back to the first time that we've experienced that. That, to me, is really, really, really powerful. That we can bring ourselves back to the time when those connections in our brain were laid down. And what I love from this bit of wisdom here, Alex, is that to me taps into the joy that was there at that time. And
yes,
that's, I think, that's
because
really
back
cool,
in the
really
time
special.
we didn't have judgments.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. We didn't have judgments.
Mm.
We didn't have worries. We didn't have many things, that baggage that we accumulate in life.
Yes. Yeah. Like the worrying of people maybe are gonna see you and maybe judge us for how we are moving, how we're dancing. This is why almost I think being able to dance in our living room or in our bedroom or in the bathroom, who cares?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Like, you're not being witnessed. You're totally there with your own space, and doing that and being free to be able to do that. I think that's really cool. That's great. I'm really glad you've touched on this, because I'm a big fan of embodiment movement and embodiment dance, and I think this is a very, very special modality. And if we give ourselves permission, this is really available for anybody, as long as you have a space and you have a ability to play music on your sound system. This, I think, is really simple and really beautiful.
And I have done lately with these restrictions. I have done few workshops, on the camera, and I play some music and I guide the journey.
Yes,
and it's so powerful. It's so beautiful. Obviously, I miss to have people close to me. But it's okay, It's something that you feel the encouragement, when you're looking at people, even the camera, to do those type of practices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You share the energy.
Yes. So back to that connection with the inner child. I had done workshops in Portugal. That was 2 years ago, and that was beautiful because through all these simple practices, again, people were more aware about emotions, and people start connecting with the patterns, and it creates just a fun type of memories coming through. It's very sacred to me.
And I think the interesting thing, to come back to what Joseph was talking about, this connection to the joys, it doesn't necessarily have to be, maybe your childhood wasn't a hugely happy time, maybe it isn't where you want to go to, but you can find a time in your life where you were really joyous. And as you say, Alex, where you're free from judgment and you felt like you could really be yourself. And what's the soundtrack that was at that point in your life, and reconnecting in with that energy? So it doesn't need to be, I think that one of the interesting things is there's the poem by David Whyte where he talks about take the first step, don't take the second or the third. And if somebody is kind of a little bit like, inner child work, that sounds a bit off there, just reconnecting with the time when you felt that you were really yourself, and there was real joy in your life, and as Alex said, no judgments around who you are and how you were showing up, and find the musical connection into that, and then bring that through your body. I'm just looking at the time here. We've already kind of rocked on to a huge amount of stuff that I don't know where the time went, to be honest with you. But is there anything that we should have asked you about, Alex, that we didn't? Is there anywhere you'd like to go, or something you'd like to share with us?
For sure. I am passionate about the ancestral medicines. This is something that I've been practicing for maybe the same 15 years. And also the point of view from the post-Western point of view, and this colonization of the plant medicines, that nowadays it becomes like a trend. So you may heard ayahuasca, San Pedro ceremonies, and Yopo Buko ceremonies in many countries. And my approach to this is they are great helpers. They are gate openers for people when they are done in a most sacred and ethical way. So something very important, something that I've been working in the last years is to educate people about it. So when I do hold spiritual retreats in many countries, I teach people, the elements that should be in place in any shamanic healing plant medicine ceremony. for them to recognize, because my mind is, because I've been away from South America for a long time, maybe more than half of my life abroad. So my mind is in this point where, and Western mind needs more explanation, needs more reason for why. And then sometimes in the indigenous communities, they don't explain anything because it's natural for them. So that's one important point here, is the ethical and sacredness, not recreative at all, of these ceremonies, and the importance of it, and the evolution through the history, because the plant medicine's been here before us, which is centuries of knowledge. So I like to also work with the mind and the plant medicines. I graduated from psychology just a year ago. And so I like to work with the neuroplasticity, epigenetics, the function of the brain, but all in the chemical way. But also with the mysticism of the shamanism and all these ancient practices. That is, in the end, all connected.
Sounds like there's lots and lots more to explore there. So lots of tools. Where can we find you, Alex? Where can, if people want to know more about you, where would they find you?
Thank you so much. For a long time, I have no website, and all my work and ceremonies and workshops were word to mouth. And it was beautiful. But I set up a website. I'm still working on it, but it's DiscoverYourHeart.net. And it's a
so that's just DiscoverYourHeart.net, DiscoverYourHeart, or HEART.net.
DiscoverYourHeart.net. And yes, and my Instagram also is Discover Your Heart Now. That's my user. And I do have also some YouTube channel that I started to love interviews with elders in the Amazon. So my dream is to be just, I'm living the dream, to become the bridge between this ancestral knowledge and the Western world. So I've been compiling in this knowledge, and I'm writing a book about this shamanism for modern age. And also I'm writing another, small book about shamanic practices for integration after healing ceremonies. That is something very important, the integration. That is what comes after when the person comes to experience a shamanic medicine. That's very important. So I've been working with MAPS, that is an organization in America. And I am a member of different psychedelic societies in different countries. So I like to educate myself and also be, again, this bridge between this knowledge. And so that's very important in my work. So yes, the DiscoverYourHeart.net, and my Instagram, Discover Your Heart Now. And
so it's just, is Discover Your Heart, is Discover Your Heart Now probably the easiest place to be able to connect with you on Instagram?
Instagram, Discover Your Heart Now. That's the main one. And I post all the time value content of all related with shamanism, indigenous communities all over the world.
Okay, brilliant. And that's where you're interested in dancing and ceremony and singing, then that's the best place to get to you. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And also another project that I do is I like to contribute. It's like a payback to these indigenous communities. So I work mainly with circles of women in these indigenous communities, women leaders of their communities. So I get different necklaces and bracelets and shamanic tools from them, because it's a way for me to contribute and to keep alive all these ancestral crafts and wisdom, and moreover, again, helping women leaders of these communities.
Great.
Wonderful work. Alex, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your wisdom with us and to bring this smile and to bring your heart to us. Thank you for allowing us to be able to discover a little bit more of our hearts by seeing you shining brightly in your heart. This is beautiful to see, brother, and it's amazing.
Thank you so much.
You again. Thank you.
Thank you.